the Girl Cis Man podcast.
For the girls we were,
For the sisters we became, and the women we're becoming. Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Girl Cis Man podcast. I know y'all have missed us, and I promise we got a good reason this time.
Look, our hair is different. It took us all this time to get braids done.
For real. And wouldn't you know it? We have similar styles.
Yes,
Come
we
on,
do.
somebody. Glory be to God.
We're giving you melanin goddess.
Yo, especially as we walk into the less favorable season of the year, as the children refer to it.
Spooky season! Spooky season! Spooky season! I'm here for it. I'm here for the pumpkin spice. I'm here for the apple muffins. I'm here for the cider. I'm here for it all. Give it to me, please. I'm excited for spooky season.
I'm not. It's not my season at all. I'm wearing black in order to mourn the occasion. And let me tell you why.
3 months not enough?
It wasn't enough. First of all, it wasn't even 3 months. Let's really talk about it. I'm getting really tired of this New England weather. The winter was longer than the weight of Jesus Christ this year, okay?
All right.
Then we went straight into the fall after but 2 weeks of summertime.
It's a lie. It was like the devil's ass crack hot.
Are you serious?
It was hot and I was
It was really not that hot, y'all. Take it from somebody who enjoys the heat. I was getting shivers all summer long.
I mean, who are you going to believe? The lady who never exaggerates or the lady who's...
You never exaggerate.
Not to the women.
You never.
Give me an
there
example.
you go. Well, there you go. And now you know who to believe.
No. I want some receipts. In the next clip, put me exaggerating.
I will.
Okay. When was I exaggerating?
I'll put in the next clip. You're going to be surprised.
Monique shook the table and y'all really got in your feelings. I watched it and I was like, that makes sense to me. And then everyone's like, not my body. Not my body. And I was like, just so you know, she's taking it out of context and making it look
so you
like...
tell me to put the clip in, now I'm taking it out of context.
All I'm saying is you're not a reliable source.
Wow.
The narration...
Go to Wikipedia. Listed reliable source, Esther Charles.
She's at Wikipedia. That should tell you all you need to know. But the point being, we're here, we're back, we're ready to get into it. And today we're going to be talking about prejudice versus preferences when we're talking about dating, even maybe friendships. Because I saw a clip, a little TikTok video that I was like, interesting, peculiar, funny, not ha-ha, funny, weird kind of a thing.
Well, tell me about this clip, because did you show me this clip?
I think so. We talked about it about when this woman was talking about how she wants more bad bitch friends like her.
Oh, okay.
And what she meant by aesthetically pleasing, women who bag men like she does. And I was like, is this how we picking our friends? Is this how we doing it?
No, is that what the video said?
That's exactly what she said.
That's what she verbatim. I
not
feel
dead
like,
ass, dead.
Bro, okay.
No, she said,
I want more bad bitch friends. I understand that, but I think that she also
Are you in agreement?
No. I'm elaborating on my understanding.
Exaggerating. Of course.
You see, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know. Lola just coming with a rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta lately. You see what I'm saying? Last time she attacked y'all, who is next on the list?
Everybody had it.
No, I feel like she more so was like, I want friends who are kind of going through life similarly to me, right? And let me explain why, right? Because she was talking about like, I think, and she exposed one of her friends. I really didn't like the way she went about it. I think that, to be honest, was very nasty of her. I'm gonna go out and say that right now, right? We all have our nasty moments, sis. I'm not judging you. We all have a day or two, right?
I am odd, weird, never would say some shenanigans like that, but go on, continue.
But she, goes on to say that one of her friends, is acting low-key like a lame for this dude, right? And
I don't remember that part of the TikTok.
She
followed up. I think
she elaborated that she didn't like the way her friend was behaving. She was like,
what did I do with your physical though?
It wasn't about her physical, but she was low-key like, I need friends who are on the same type of time. Like, I'm not begging no man to like me. Men pay my bills. Men is doing this. Men is doing that for me. And I don't need friends who are going to be sitting here weeping about the same ugly old dude over and over and over again.
Well, that wasn't the first TikTok. That's the only one I saw. And the one she was talking about she wanted bad bitch friends like her, who pill men like her, who get dressed like her, who are cute like her. Which I read was, I want somebody who's of equal caliber who I can have some competition with. Now,
competition?
Yeah.
I don't think competition was what she wanted from that.
Yes,
I think
he does.
Camaraderie. And let me tell you something. This is not to say that I agree with her. I have a plethora of friends. I like the varieties, of friends that I have, right? But I can understand wanting to have someone who shares a very similar experience to you, because that low-key relatability is what it comes down to when it comes down to friendship. And I'm not saying that this is the right way to go about it. I don't care how you dress. I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you bagging, who you're not bagging. The quality of your character is going to decide your friendship for me. But I can understand her probably being like, you know what? These girls that I'm currently hanging around, they don't really get the situations that I be going through. And
Get her as a lawyer. She will make anything you said that sounds horrible sound actually logical and great. Because here's the thing. I'm believing everything you're saying. And then my brain goes, no. Remember the TikTok. Remember the TikTok. I want bad bitch friends. First and foremost, you're insinuating that your other friends aren't bad bitches, which you're insinuating that they're ugly or they're not of aesthetically pleasing caliber as you. The point being, she's saying she wants friends based on their physical attributes. What she said after that, we will not dispute. We will not debate. But did she or did she not say she wants friends who are aesthetically pleasing like herself?
And I'm going to go ahead and be honest. You know what I'm saying? I'm never one to sit here and lie. Did I watch the whole video?
No. Because you wouldn't be sympathizing like this.
Here's the thing. I feel like, first of all, I think I did watch the video. More likely than not, a long time has passed, and I have since been removed from the drawing board. But I do remember having this discussion with multiple persons who were very angry under the comments. You know what I'm saying? And I can understand. I'm not saying what she said was right. I'm not defending that. But also too, and listen, maybe it's a pretty girl problem. Okay, maybe it's not a problem that I faced in my youth growing up. God knows I wasn't in that category. I was in the humble yourself. Now you can't afford more than one problem. No, on a real note, I can understand her just wanting to be like, yo, like, I just want a friend who is on my type of vibe, right? Because I'm assuming, like, because bad bitch means so much more than aesthetic to me.
But she was talking about the physical.
But I want to believe. I want to believe.
You got to believe what people say. You can't be like, oh, well, let me add something else. I'm going to explain something, right? So, I'm friends with Margaret and with Esther.
Yes.
I don't think you are less attractive than any of us, but I also know you don't like makeup and you don't like hair stuff like we do. Yes. I'm not going to send you hair makeup videos to you because it's not of interest.
Yes,
that is the vibes, right? Because it would be different. She's like, I want a friend who watches YouTube videos like me, who wants to go to Ulta, who wants to like learn. That would be great, but that's not what she said. She said, I want bad bitches like me who pull men like me. Hence, she's talking about all of this. So we cannot. I understand you want. She's a good person. She wants to give her the benefit of the doubt of not being.
I believe in you, sweetheart. You can reach out to me. You have a shoulder to cry on. Yes.
You got a finger to wag you in judgment. Shame on you.
But you know what it is? But you know what? And that actually is a perfect segue into what we're talking about, because I'm like, should we be upset when they talk about their needs needing to be met? And they might not be needs that we understand. They might not be needs that we share. Yeah. Right? But particularly as we talk about prejudices versus preferences, I'm like, do we have the authority as a society to judge anyone for their friendship preferences, their relationship preferences? I think not. And let me tell you why. Actually, Lola sent a video this morning, y'all, to us, and it was very triggering for you. Go ahead and tell the audience why.
So it's a video about I guess it's like a podcast, and maybe we'll put the clip in, and they're talking about how or why men won't date women who are considered big girls. And honestly, I think the issue with the term is like, what do they consider big? What are they like, really, because we don't know what that means. So for someone, it could be a size 10, moderately chubby, or somebody who's like really overweight. But the point being is that they're saying it's the connotation that you could not raise children in the way that a man would want to, because your eating habits and your lifestyle choices are not conducive to a healthy one.
And they seem to not find them attractive either. Like, they're not attracted to these types of women.
Yeah, to these types of bodies.
Okay. And so my question is, why was that triggering?
I think my issue, I don't have an issue with a man being like, she's not my type. And if he said, oh, my type is not someone chubby like Paola, would it sting a little bit? Yes. But would I be crying about it? Absolutely fucking not. But the issue was, if he was like, yeah, chubby girls like Paola aren't my type, because, they're like lazy. And that's my issue, that the connotation, and that's why I keep talking about these preferences. It's always, oh, I don't date you, and this is why. I don't need to hear the why, because the why tells me you don't like me for negative reasons. And I posted on our Instagram, like, have you ever felt like you've been, had a prejudice against you? And Michaela, our good friend, says, yeah, someone told me I was too dark. Someone could be like, I don't like dark-skinned women. But there's a connotation to it. What is the extra? but the why I don't. And that's where my issue lies. It's not, I don't date big women. I don't date big women because I think they're unhealthy and all this other stuff. Listen, there are people who are thin out here smoking crack, smoking packets of cigarettes, drinking Four Locos, who are not getting up from the couch, but you wouldn't know based on just looking at them. But you never go, I want to make sure the woman that I'm with is walking 5K every month and a hike, and she's drinking 8 cups of water every day. Like, there's this idea, this assumption that a certain body is inherently lazy. And nobody wants to be with a lazy person. So if a man was like, I don't want to be with you because you're big, and because you're big, you're lazy, then that's where my issue lies. Because you ain't got to talk to me about that. I know what I do. You know what I do. I'm out here moving. I'm walking 20K steps a day. I'm going on these hikes.
It's really crazy, bro.
Honestly, when I die and I got in the face, I'm like, sir, based on what I was eating and the way that I was moving,
God, please.
This body.
You're not gonna roll up to the kingdom like that, sweetheart. There are gonna be so many other things.
Like after he lets me in. Like, hey, yo,
listen,
JC.
bro. Let me tell you, the first thing I'm gonna do when I get to the gates is like, Eva's in what section? No, I want to have a conversation with her. God bless that woman. I just gonna be a line of women like, I just want to talk to you, girl. Come on, I just want to talk to you. Come on,
so that snake friend of yours.
Tell me about him, girl. What he say to you, girl? I need to know.
Was he still in?
But I understand what you're saying, and I think that here's the thing, right? Like, I think a great example of what you were talking about, actually, that everyone could like recall right now is Lizzo versus Aries Spears, right?
Yeah. Spears.
Whatever, man.
The man.
The dude, the comedian guy who had much to say about her. And I think that particularly this example highlights that, because they literally go, what do you think about Lizzo's music? And he goes, listen, man, that girl, I can't get over the fact that she looked like a piece of, like, and I'm sitting here like, wait a minute now, like, what does this have to do with her artistry? Like, what does this have to do with her musicianship? Like, that to me, I was like, oh, that's prejudice. Like, that's not like, and he's sitting there, here's my problem. I think that a lot of people disguise their prejudices as preferences.
Yes, they do.
And that is where I think that we need to draw the line in the sand and understand the distinction between the two. Because I'm like, there's a difference in those two things, and I think it's born out of intention, right? And I say that because when I think of a preference, I'm more than okay for someone to say, like, I'm not interested in dating dark-skinned women or black women in general or bigger women. And let me tell you why. Because attraction is not always something that is in our control. Let me tell you why. Like, you grow up a particular way, you see your family a particular way, TV is coming at you a particular way. So based on your environment, I believe like your preferences for attraction can be tailored more towards one segment than another. That's just the reality, right?
I agree, but I don't think, if someone said my preference is, if someone said, what's your preference? I wouldn't go, these are the people I don't date. I wouldn't start my preference list with people I don't. But I don't think I have to mention that, because if I tell you what my preference is, anything that's not within that box is obviously not my preference, and I don't have to slight somebody. So someone said, what's my preference?
I think slight is the difference, right? Yeah. Because I think prejudice is when you go, I don't date black-skinned women because I'm not into, them night riders. I'm not into. Why
do you even have to say you don't? Like, that's where my issue lies. Like, if you said, Paulo, what kind of type of man you're looking for, and I said I really like Caribbean men, you don't gotta know that I'm not gonna say, but I don't date Asians. Like, I don't have, if you have a preference. Why do we always mention all the other people we don't want to date? Because if you have a preference, anything outside of this box, this circle, is not your preference. Why do you need to tell me, oh, this is not my preference? You are not that's odd to me, and that is like weird to me, because like I would never be like, oh, I don't date X. I would be like, my preference is blah 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 blah.
But you know what though? People do talk like that though, and a lot of the times they do feel the need to explain. Your explanation to me will allow me to understand if it's prejudice or preference, right?
Yeah.
Because if you talk to someone and they're like, I don't date black women because and then they list a bunch of negative things, right?
Yeah.
Then it's, okay, you're geared towards prejudice. Like, whereas if you go, I don't find them attractive. Like, it's never struck a chord in me. And I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you. Like, I think a while back we were talking about, would you date someone of a different race? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. tried that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was looking at homeboy like, now listen here, governor. I have
Listen,
nothing.
chief.
I have, and I think that I'm a very flirty personality.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I sat across from this man that did not look like me or my father. You understand what I'm saying? And I was stone cold. Not a part of me was warm. And I said, sir, lay your hands on the table so I can see them at all times. I was like, hey, don't smile at me too tough or I will call the authorities. No, but what I mean is that you're entitled to your preferences.
You are.
But I think that the difference between your preference and your prejudice is where it's coming from. If it's coming from a place of maliciousness, fine. If it's coming from a place of indifference, I think that's different. That's
I'm really
all.
having a hard time grappling this because, like, if you said, Paola, what is your favorite food? And I went, I don't eat Jamaican food. You'd be like, what are you talking about? I asked you what your favorite food is. I could be like, my favorite food is Caribbean food. I don't gotta tell you, I don't eat Thai food. Like, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, why do you need, okay, if a white man said, I've never dated black women, I would go, okay, that makes sense because he is white and you're generally attracted to people that look like you. So I don't need a follow-up of why you don't find us attractive or why you have never done it because it makes sense. There are certain things you don't need more explanations. I don't need to hear why you don't date XYZ. If you tell me your preference is blonde hair, blue eyes, depending who it's coming from, I'm not going to ask you for more information.
But there are women out there that, like, look at the women who call in for Kevin Samuels, for example. Like, those types. There are women who want to know. And there are women who are attracted to certain people who are not attracted to them, and they want to know.
Life, but everybody.
No, I understand, but they want to know. Maybe why is that, right? Like, why don't you find me attractive? And if someone says, I don't find you attractive, simply because I don't find you attractive, I'm indifferent to that, right? That's one thing. I think it becomes prejudice, though, when you're like,
but also, can we say this? Preference doesn't mean you only date X. And, like, my preference is I want vanilla ice cream.
However, if they bring in chocolate, I'ma still destroy that mother lover. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly. So this idea of, like, oh, it's just my preference. Your preference means whatever comes first is what you would want. If you could pick what you wanted to and get everything you wanted, that is your preference. That does not mean that you're not open to other things. And when people are like, this is what I solely date, I don't even want to argue that. But also, I don't need because then I don't want to argue you or even hear what you got to say because I know what's going to follow up. I think we can't play devil's advocate in hopes that we're going to be kind-hearted. Most people have malicious intent when it comes to their preferences. If they tell you, oh, I don't like dating dark-skinned women, you best believe it's because of colorism. If they tell you don't want to date big women, they'll say it's because of stuff. It's fat phobia. Like, we can't act like we have not been trained in our culture to internalize certain things and not value certain people and certain bodies and certain face shapes and all. Like, let's not play dumb. Like, if you tell me you don't date X, I'm pretty sure know why you don't want to date X. I don't need to hear your explanation. I don't need you to prove me right. No. I don't need to be proven right.
That makes sense. And I'm not sitting here trying to play devil's advocate for someone. I just, again, like, because I think because one part of the video, and again, we will insert the clip, was that he was saying that we come to a place, low key, where, like, you're kind of being forced. Like, people are trying to force you out of your preferences.
I don't believe that.
I do, actually. I really, really do.
God.
And let me tell you why. Like, it might be subtle in some cases and harder in some cases, right? I distinctly remember, like, a year ago, this girl, like, this woman on Twitter went on a tirade, created this entire thread, and so many people were like, yes, sis, yes. And she was like, the real problem. And, like, this was her conclusion. It was the wildest thing I ever saw. She was like, the real problem is that y'all refuse to date people you're unattracted to. And I was like, of course. Of course. I'm like, that makes no sense, boo-boo. I'm like, that to me. And she was like, the fact that, she was like, this whole initial attraction thing, whatever, she was like, there are so many incredible people being passed by because of X, Y, and Z, because you don't find them attraction. Attraction is a fickle thing. And we talk about the characteristics of love, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, and that's true. I think when we talk about all that encompasses loving a human being, attraction is not the first thing that comes to mind, right? But the fact is, you need that chemistry. And studies actually prove that in relationships, and this is for heterosexual relationships, this is what the study was talking about, men tend to treat women based on how attractive they find them. So if a man finds you extremely attractive, he will likely go out of his way to treat you extremely well.
But in that video, they didn't say we find big girls unattractive. They said we find big girls that because they're lazy because they're not going to feed our kids.
But I'm not even referring to the video anymore.
But I'm just letting you know, sometimes these preferences, like, there are these negative connotations that come to certain people based on the way that they look, and it does not negate people that, like, I'm sorry, have you seen, there are a bunch of skinny men like this all laid up on a big old woman. They like it, they love it, no one's putting a gun to their heads, and they're there. So my point being is, if I don't need you to find all these people attractive. You don't need to slight them on the way. If you don't find something attractive, mind your business. Keep it pushing. I have a hard time believing that if a man who's physically fits on Tinder, right, you get the option to use your preference selection. You don't ever gotta swipe right on a big girl. You don't ever gotta swipe on a black girl if you don't like that. You don't gotta do any of that. So what are you talking about? Who is pushing you? Who's pushing you?
There's a push. I'm telling you about this thread. You didn't even let me finish up with it, boo.
All right.
I'm like, that's okay. I'm like, but there is a push, right, for people to kowtow their preferences in order to be, politically correct. And I say this because we even talked about a little while back that I was politically correct dating not too long ago, right? Like, I was getting asked about people that I found unattractive by bands and miles and widths and lengths that I couldn't even describe. But I was like, well, why ever not? What I'm trying to say is there is a push, and I don't think it should be ignored, for people to be like, yes, like, okay, like, I might not find you attractive, you might not be my preference, but, like, I have to sit here and, be like, yeah, you are. Like, and I think that that's not fair. Yeah. People are entitled to their opinions and to their preferences. Do we need to know, reasons A through Z as to why you're not finding somebody else attractive? No, I agree with you there on that standpoint. However, I feel like there is, and I'm not saying it's a super loud group, but there is a group that is gaining value that is like, yo, like, y'all can't say that y'all aren't attracted to this. Like, y'all can't say that because, it encourages violence. It encourages further otherism. It encourages, and I'm like, but they're allowed to say, and you know what it is? People often think that because so if someone will say, what is your preference? And I'll say, my preference is X. And they go, because you didn't mention the rest of the alphabet, by default, you are othering them, and by othering them, you are subjecting them to marginalization, to violence, to X, to Y, to Z. And I think two things can be true at the same time, right? But fundamentally, as an individual, you have a right to your preference, and I don't think that anyone has the authority to tell you otherwise, societally or not.
Like, I don't... And maybe I'm just using myself as an example because I can't speak for everybody, but I don't want to be with anybody who doesn't want to be with me. I don't think anybody in their right mind is like, I'm going to force you to love me, whether you like it or not. I don't think that's the discussion, but the idea is people are being eliminated because of societal context to their bodies and their faces and their shapes of their noses and their hair texture. This idea that, oh, if you look like this, you're loud and you're ghetto. If you look like this, you're lazy and you're unhealthy. And again, you're not even saying, I don't even find you attractive. I'm saying because you are this, you are inherently that as well. And I think that's what it is. But also, the discourse on Twitter and Instagram is not real life. And that's why I mentioned the whole thing with Tinder. These men, fat women, big women, chubby women, whatever you call them, are not rolling up on them and be like, you gonna date me or I'm gonna shame you. They don't do that. Nobody does that. They're like, you're gonna date me or else. That doesn't happen. Y'all are just going on the internet, the interweb, stating your opinion, and now people want to give you the same rata-ta-ta-ta-ta. I'm sorry. Like, if you got, like, think about that young man that was murdered by his white girlfriend. Mm-hmm. That was his preference. But he had a whole lot to say about everybody who wasn't his preference.
This is very, very true. And
that's how most people talk about people who are not their preference. And that is where the issue lies. And so if you got a problem that you're real mouthy and now people are like, oh, that's real fucked up for you to say, and you're kind of a douchebag, then I'm sorry to tell you.
But that's a prejudice. Like, that's what I'm saying, though.
But
like,
a lot of people have prejudice, but they claim it's their opinion.
Or they claim it's their preference. And my thing is, what I'm trying to do is be like, yo, that's maliciousness. That's coming from a place of bad information, ignorance, mm-hmm. right? And I'm like, and stereotype. So therefore, that's a prejudice, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, you just being like, hey man, like, I like so and such person, I wouldn't mind another person, but like, I've never met someone of a particular look or, group. that has pulled my attention thus far. Not that there are not beautiful people there.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm gonna just keep it all the way funky with you. Am I out here looking for white men? God bless y'all. May God keep y'all. You are welcome to the kingdom like everybody else.
Listen, if you my Ivory Prince, roll up.
Oh.
I'm joking.
Listen, why not? But why not, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not my preference.
Yeah.
But listen, if that's the only man that's gonna love me the way God loved the church, then absolutely, I'm gonna just close my eyes in the dark and say he just as black as everything else up in here, black behind my eyelids.
First of all, if he look like Brad Pitt, you're not gonna.
I'm not a Brad Pitt fan like that.
Boo! Tomatoes.
Whatever.
Tomatoes.
I am. Listen. There's nothing wrong with a young Brad Pitt. Maybe Brad Pitt, particularly in that movie. What was the movie?
Troy.
Brad Pitt and Troy.
That is
I was
white
like,
man porn. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Eric Bana, Orlando Bloom. Oh my God, all of them, fantastic. 10 out of 10. Didn't watch it for the violence or the action sequence.
I loved the history that it brought in. I'm not even kidding. Like that, I just heard me say that. It sounded so bad. I love the history that it brought into context.
Yes, I love learning about the Trojan War.
Actually, I was such a history aficionado. I loved
Did you read the Odyssey and the Iliad?
I did actually.
I actually
wrote a whole fan fiction based off of the Odyssey.
Deadass?
Yes.
Can I read it?
Absolutely not. I wrote it when I was like.
I would love to read it though. I really like real life. I'm into like Greek mythology. Did you know that?
I did not. You see, and that's what I'm talking about.
I'm
dead ass. I'm the biggest Greek mythology nerd.
I love
me on this.
I'm being serious.
I have read dang near every series Greek mythology related.
Listen,
can nobody tell me?
Do you have any good fan fiction between Hades and Persephone?
Oh my gosh!
Please,
yes.
And also, I need some good fan fiction about Zeus because Zeus was out here doing some f-boy nonsense. Like Zeus. Oh my God, awful.
I like Persephone. I like Aphrodite. Me and Aphrodite. No, not Aphrodite. What is her name? I'm so sorry. Athena. I wanted to name my daughter Athena for a little bit. Yes, after wisdom. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
I always want my kids to be blessed with some smarts.
That's a good.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
I'm sorry.
Back to the topic at hand. I lost it. We're gonna have to.
Okay.
You see, I'm sitting here like what? But on a real note, like I get it, right? Like I'm not sitting here like, looking out here for white men, but if he's gonna love me the way I need to be loved, then I will take him. He might not have been my physical preference, but at the end of the day, it comes down to me loving your character. And so I understand what the girl in the Twitter thread was trying to say in the grand scheme of love, right? Attraction is necessary in my mind. She was saying it's unnecessary, it's fickle, but I'm like, it is necessary because at the end of the day, I'm not stopping you in the middle of the street like, is that a personality shining in you? I'm like, woo, shining bright like a diamond. No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm like, I want to see what's going on. I want to see, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be this that draws me in. I'm going the wrong way. It's gonna be this. You know what I'm saying?
All of this, yeah.
And it matters. And I also think that we have to, like you said, stick to the words. And I think that we have to let go of certain connotations with certain words.
Agreed.
And this is where I'm gonna come from. I feel like we've got to start taking words for what they are and not the connotations that come along with them. And let me explain what I mean by that. Like, I feel like this generation has a problem with understanding that words are meant to define, to communicate, to further elaborate or share some sense of relativity, to describe, you know what I'm saying? And instead, we take the connotations. And I'm like, we as human beings, we as separate societies, put on connotations. I'm like, but the words themselves, like words are just descriptors. Like they're vessels, you know what I'm saying?
They should be neutral.
Right. I'm like, now if someone could form them into an attack, yes, but it's up to us, the person receiving the words, to digest them in the way that we like need to, right? In order to keep it pushing. And I say this because like I think of, and I know like, there's nuances to everything, but take for example, right? Like the word sex worker, like now that's what we're calling people, who were formerly known as prostitutes or whores or what have you. And I'm like, respectfully, the word still means the exact same thing.
I think with sex worker though, it's because there's a vast there are webcam girls or girls who aren't like sending there are things that people are doing that aren't directly prostitution. So I think the sex worker, but I get what you're saying, that there is this like idea of you could be doing the work that prostitutes do, but you don't want to be
called a prostitute. And I'm like,
and hide under the word sex worker,
right? Because it's a broad term. Or even like, take for example, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I used to, really appreciate Demi Lovato, as an artist, but she's one of those artists now where I turn on the music and turn off the sound of her voice and her personality. Yeah. So she goes like, oh, like we shouldn't call aliens anymore, it's offensive. I'm like, if you're uneducated, just say that. Because the word alien literally means someone or something who is foreign to the place where they currently are, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's nothing negative about that word. Mm-hmm. It's negative, right? If you're in Texas, like, block them aliens, I'm like, the connotation that we associate with the word may now be offensive, right? But also too, like, if I were someone who was considered an alien, I'm not going to take that offensively because I am foreign to this place. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that we take words and we take people's adjectives and descriptors and make it a personal attack onto ourselves. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's not that. Like, take for example, like the same video this morning where the guy was like, yeah, I'm not really into big girls, and you were like, yo, I'm really not a fan of people calling me a big girl. And I was like, well,
I don't think I've ever been called a big girl. I just said I didn't like the term big girl because, and I'll explain myself, you don't call skinny women little girls.
I call them thin.
Okay, but that's not, but you don't call them little girl. Like, and also, I don't know. It's like when people say, like, some people don't mind being called boy, but, like, a man might not want to be called a boy. Like, if I'm grown, call me, like, I don't know. I'm not trying to say you should call them big women. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't, and I just didn't like the term big girl, because I just like, but I've never been called that. So, again, and I followed up with, I don't even know if I should be telling you don't say big girl, because there could be a bunch of big girls who are like, I like the term big girl. It accurately describes me. I'm big and I'm a girl. Like, I don't know. But to me, I'm like, and I think, else? But you also say the blacks, and I'm like, I do. The whites, and I'm like, the colors.
I also say the BJs. I put the in front of everything. If you've met me, I'm like, I'm going to the gas station, the this, the that. I'm going to the.
That makes sense. You can't go, I'm going to the gas station.
I'm going to the Cisco. I'm going to the mobile. You know what I'm saying? I actually do put the in front of everything. Like, a lot of my friends make fun of me for everything, right?
The Facebook.
I do. The Facebook, the Instagram. It is the thing that I'm about to describe, right? But I think that you do, right, have the authority to dictate how people engage with you, right? You can be like, you know what, if you're going to engage with me, I don't like to be called, I don't like these terms, right, when describing me, right? But I think that, like, this, I don't know who up and woke up this generation and said that y'all have the authority to decide who can and can't use certain vocabulary words at their whim, but we can. I'm like, and that's my thing. I'm like, y'all cannot make rules for the entire world. Like, Lizzo and Beyonce both had to edit their lyrics recently because people across the pond were like, hey, this actually means something to my disorder. And I was like, okay, but if we're gonna do it like that, and that is not to say that if with the intent, they, like, because they said spaz, which, by the way, was such a colloquial term back in the day. Like, I used to be like, yo, don't spaz out on me, or I'm about to spaz, you know what I'm saying? But I'm like, that's an American colloquial term, you know what I'm saying? So across the pond, them being like, you gotta edit it, applying that much pressure, you know what I'm saying, that these artists feel the need to edit their lyrics, I'm like, that to me is almost nonsensical. Not because I'm like, A, it wasn't malicious. I'm like, there was no intent behind it. You literally were not the audience. If you put it within the context, right, let's have context of the song, it didn't touch you at all, right? You made it about you. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm like, I think that we take certain terms and we make it about us because we're we're a little bit, I mean, main character energy, a little self-centered, a little narcissistic, that the whole world has to cater to our every whim, particularly when it comes to vocabulary. Because if you have traveled the world, you know that certain things mean completely other things in different countries, and they don't carry the same weight, and it carries that weight to you because that's been your experience. But I'm gonna challenge y'all to actually unlearn certain connotations and learn to and relearn to digest those things without prejudice. I'm like, and just be like, the word is what it is. It's an adjective. You're gonna call me a big girl comparatively? Like, when I was, it's funny because, like, Lola brought this up and she was like, yo, you low-key capping, sis.
Yeah.
What was the example you gave? You was like,
so Esther was saying the sentiment is that you can't add more context to the word, or you can't give more meaning than it is because it's just a descriptor. And I said, well, that's not true, because there's been a couple examples of people describing you with certain words, and you did not like that.
You gave the chubby chaser example, because that young man, he was like, yo, you know, you just my type, I'm a chubby chaser. And I was like, excuse me?
You took offense to it.
Excuse me. But, and you know what it was? I think when I first heard it, yeah, I took offense to it, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, I started, like, talking to other people, and then specifically I sat down and was like, yo, I'm big. And let me tell you why I said this, right? Let me tell you why I said this, right? When I was in Spain in grad school, like, I remember we did a women's night, like a ladies' night or whatever, and we came all together and we made, like, food from our home countries and we were chilling. And I was like, yo, what were our first impressions about each other? Like, let's be honest here. And one of my friends goes, girl, when I first saw you, you were the biggest, tallest, widest thing I've ever seen in my life. And if you look at her, she is petite, she is rail thin, like, and many of our friends, low-key, like, you know, they looked like that. Like, they were small, like, not even just in width, but in stature. And I'm not even kidding you, I would be like, like, you know what I'm saying?
Hello down there.
No, but literally, like, they were, you know, and that was her understanding of me, right? And she was like, now, and it's funny because when she met my younger sister, who was taller than me, I'm like, she was like the shock on their faces to see a woman that tall. But for them, they were like, yo, you're big. And I had to realize, like, my reality is not everyone's reality, and their description is subjective based off of their reality, and I cannot make it about me. Like, I can't go to someone else's country and be like, you're not allowed to call me dark skinned, you're not allowed to call me big, but that's their reality, and they're using words which we share across the globe to describe and communicate in a relative fashion. So I'm like, we've got to take a step back and not make every single thing about us.
No.
And I'm also like, there are better situations, like, where people are actually talking about us and they're like, you a little big girl, right? And you could just be like, that could be projection, or that could just be the truth. And the reality is, that's okay. For me, anyway.
I think I agree with your sentiment, but I also understand that people, I don't know, like, I'm gonna speak for myself. I've always been a little plump. I've always been a little troop. It's just.
I like it personally. I find it voluptuous.
You know, I think in the photos, I've never ever been thin, and I've always been in the pursuit of thinness. And I'm having this whole conversation with myself about, like, is that what you want, or do you want to be a healthy version of you? There are people their entire lives, they've been pegged by the shape of their bodies and have been told things. As a kid, I remember being told, men are not going to find you attractive because they're going to look at you and think you're lazy. As a kid. Mind you, I was sipping and zapping, jump rope, as active as you can be. And I wasn't feeding myself. I wasn't picking the food. But true. I was being told, people are going to think you're lazy. They're never going to pick you. You got to be worried when you do have a man, because he's going to cheat. And when he cheats, he's going to pick with people that he really wants to be with. And so we have to understand is that people have given these certain words connotations, and we can't go, well, I can't make it about myself. People have made it about themselves. The thing is, people have wielded these words to mean negative things. And so we can't go, well, you can't take it. Like, that's how it's been meant. Like, can we try to change it forward? Can we reclaim the word? Like, the word bitch, like, people don't find it offensive. Other people, there are women who, like, don't call me that. Yeah. And you literally could be like, no, I didn't mean it like that. Like, I don't care what you meant.
Right.
Don't call me that.
And I think also, too, like, low-key, like, it reminds me of trauma, right? Like, you might associate certain words with, you know, a negative thing in your past. But I just think, and I'm not saying, like, I'm not negating all of those things. Like, you're absolutely right? There are words that are wielded to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? And they have wounded you. But I think it is to our detriment if we allow our wounds and our hurts to color our perspective and be our passport in the world.
I agree.
Like, I think that we need to, if we want to be better internally and if we want to see a better world, I'm like, we have to choose what we allow to color our lenses. And I say this because I'm like, the reality is the world is so much bigger than the state of Connecticut, so much bigger than our houses, our cultural houses, where these things were so normal to say. You know, they're so much bigger than our neighborhoods, they're so much bigger than this country. I'm like, you're going to come across people who are going to use those words differently.
No, I understand that. And you know how I know, like, I've had conversations with people like, oh, if I say, like, oh, I want to lose weight, or, like, I'm a plus size girl, they're like, their response is, No, you're not. You're such a beautiful girl. Like I had said, because I'm plus size, I'm ugly as hell.
Yeah.
Because people, and mind you,
they associate the same words.
Thing. Exactly. So even when you're reclaiming that word, because even if I say, oh, I'm being chubby, someone's like, no, you're calling yourself. I didn't say it was ugly. I'm describing my body. But we have already, as a culture, I don't think there's any culture. I think there are points in time where being big was kind of found cute. Where like, oh, if you ate a lot, it meant you were rich. So if you were big, it meant you had pockets and they were deep and they were fat, okay? And now it's not so much. But I think culturally across most board, being chubby is not seen as a thing. Except one time I was talking to this guy off of Tinder, and I think he was Ghanaian, and he was like, oh, you about to get real thick with me. And I said, absolutely not.
Yo, let me tell you, that's what I'm saying.
And I'm like, you trying to fatten me up like a pig for the slaughter.
Let me tell you, we're going to pig for slaughter.
No!
I hate you, bro. I really hate you, man. I'm like, you know what? I have been said that, like, by men, and men will be like, yo, girl, I'm about to make you thick.
I
you
don't
about
want
to be thicker than a Snicker on my hand.
No,
and
sir.
I'm
Take me
like,
on a hike.
Meanwhile, I'm like, pasta, you said? Oh, let me tell you something. The Italians, like, I don't be doing the whites, but the Italians are a special case. You pasta people, may God bless you and keep you. I'm like, no, this is not even a joke. I've been to Italy several times. It's one of my favorite places in the world to be, outside of my homeland. That's right. Y'all knew that was coming. Not Moulin, okay? But let me tell you something. Them Italians, I'm not saying all of them, cause unless they come into my DMs like, listen up, chubby. But I'm telling you, there are certain cultures of people where they're like, yes, girl, like I'm about to make you big on my account. Like you never gonna leave me. And for
I
them,
will leave you.
for
And
them,
my 600-pound life.
But then it's a compliment. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, for you sitting here with gas, like you would ruin my life and my chances. You know what I'm saying? Like. So I'm just like, we have to understand that words and communication in general, they're not always meant as an assignment to hurt us, you know? Yeah. And so I'm going to challenge y'all to kind of disassociate yourselves from some of those connotations. Yeah. I feel like a lot of the times, too, when people are forming these words as weapons, it's a lot of projection. Most of the things that I have heard in my life that have been negative, I can look back now and be like, girl, you was projecting so hard. And I just detest that, like, we've given the word so much power over us that we have to then rearrange the dictionary. Like, that's going to solve the problem. And it's not, because the reality is, in a few years, I'm sure, maybe not in sex worker because that's the example I gave, but maybe that word will be, have a bad connotation. No one's going to want to be called that. You know what I'm saying? It's not the words, it's the power that we give them. And I am so done giving power to words. And so there's that. And then there's also just, like, knowing how much power your words have and your understanding has. I think that be kind. And be enlightened, bro. Like, I think that we've come to an age, right? That if you're watching this, you're at an age where you can understand the difference between preference and prejudice. And if your preference is colored by your dislike of certain groups due to things and features that they cannot change about themselves, things that are inherently belonging to that group, it might be prejudice. Reevaluate that. Evaluate where your preferences are coming from, what they are born out of. Are they born out of a strong dislike for another? Because then maybe it's not a preference. Maybe you need therapy, homie. I'm gonna leave it at that. No, for real. Maybe you need therapy. Talk to somebody.
Figure it out.
No, for real. That's where I'm at with this. But I think it was a conversation that needed to be had.
Of course.
Because I'm tired of having to learn new words, first and foremost. I'm not gonna do it anymore. So if y'all catch me in the street...
Your vocabulary is so verbose.
Yes, but it is subjective, as we recently learned. And it will continue to be that way. And I'm gonna need y'all to not take it to the heart. Okay.
And I ask and I implore, just be kind. And no, like Nikki said, that's okay, but watch your mouth. Watch it.
That's it. That's all, y'all.
All right.
Like, that's where we're leaving it today, y'all. So let us know how you feel in the comments. How do you describe prejudice versus preferences? Yeah. Like, let us know. Let us know if you've been
the victim of dating
prejudice, or even a friendship prejudice. Because apparently you gotta be bad bitches.
Yeah, apparently
you gotta have applications now these days. You guys to really list me the qualifications of a bad
probably
bitch.
A high count on Instagram, and I don't know, hair down to your ass crack, but but I don't know, fake or real, make it do how it do. That's all.
Listen, so let us know, y'all. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.